Deluded, I'm back again. Now, it's been an interesting morning for Arsenal fans. We've seen us linked with Arteta and the Europa League draw has been made. Before I harp on about the Europa League, I've spoken about Arteta in the previous vid, so I don't want to harp on. But for me, I support it. I am enticed by what he's portrayed as, or what you're hearing. You're hearing he's improving players one-to-one. You're hearing Sterling and whatnot. I'm keen to see that with particularly Nelson, Martinelli and Saka, and actually Pepe. I want to see him give Pepe some confidence and whatnot. And obviously, when you look at Raheem Sterling, and he's irrelevant to this, but Mo Salah, what's the common denominator? They were both previously described as wingers, potentially players who like to do skills versus scoring goals and getting assists, but they're now in areas where they affect the game. I want Pepe, obviously Pepe needs to learn that. On top of everything else, Pepe needs to get that in his game, and I want Pepe to do that. Hopefully Arteta can work one-to-one with him in the analysis videos and these things to help him become that. And obviously for the young players, Saka got a goal and assist in his last Premier League game, I believe. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Or was it the Europa? Whenever it was Europa. But either way, Saka does his thing, Martinelli does his thing. But obviously, they're wide players, or Martinelli probably be a striker. But as they get older, you want them to be in areas where they're going to score goals and assists and affect the game, and stop doing skills in other areas. Being effective in terms of goals and assists and changing the game is better than other things. You look at Sterling now versus 5 years ago. Dramatically different player. He still has some of them sloppy shots, but why does he score chances? Because he's getting into better areas, because he's knowing where to play and not play. So I want to see that. Of course, in terms of the overview of the team, how we press as a team, how we defend from the first line of defence, which is our strikers, how we press as a team needs to improve. Many different variables in midfield, how we press again, how we follow runners, how we protect our back four. Our back four is terrible, specifically the heart of it. If he can improve that, I would like him to. And I would like us, the board have to pull it out, because I do believe the board have to give him players to work with. The squad is better than, I do believe it is better than where it is currently in the table. We definitely have a squad to put in more of a fight towards what Chelsea, United and Spurs are doing for the top four. I'm not saying we would have got it, but come on, people. Everybody's saying this now. At the start of the season, people saying Arsenal, you could get top four. And even some Arsenal fans were carrying on like it's a shoo-in for Arsenal to get top four, which was ridiculous, people. But they did it nonetheless. So I do think it's a better team to be challenging for stuff than currently is. But it does need improvement. The board have to work in tandem with Arteta to improve the spine of this side. A composing, strong centre midfield, a minimum, a centre half, and we can take it from there. Obviously, like I said, you know what's wrong with Arsenal, the holes in our team, how predictable we are as a football team, people. So I'd like to see Arteta improve that, obviously improve one-to-one players. I'm enticed to see, based on your hearing, obviously he's played under Wenger, he comes from Spain, he come out of La Masia, he's obviously played under Pep. When you hear this, you think attacking football and a pioneer of football. We have to be very careful, because just because I do think people are going to speak in extremes. There's certain people will get gassed off that, the hipsters will get gassed off that. By the other token, certain people say just because you lay out cones doesn't mean you're going to be that coach, which both sides arguably are right. But the middle ground is we actually don't know what we're going to get from Mikel Arteta. I think he likes to play attacking football, and we hear he's unofficially managed games, or more or less set up games for Pep, but until he actually manages a team in his own right, or we see him, we don't know. He could be a long ball coach for all we know, people. So we have to be careful of the perception. Or he could be an attacking manager, but not to the credentials you're looking at. And that's something Arteta's going to have to deal with. With every defeat or victory, he's going to be proclaimed and critiqued fairly or unfairly. I think whether you believe in the appointment or not, clearly there are some more. We would have liked someone more experienced. A more experienced man, even the most experienced manager will struggle in this position, purely because how much can a head coach, not a manager, head coach do with this playing staff? With the lack of clarity from the board, and the board have been making a mess of things. Just listen, we've made some good signings, so I'm not saying it's been completely terrible, but you look at Denis Suarez, for a team that says we have to be financially prudent, 5 million down the drain on Denis Suarez, who was never fit in the first place. So what was the point of bringing him in? 8 million on David Luiz. What's the point of it? It's good for Luiz because he stays in London, he stays in a top sort of team, if you can say that, and whatnot. But for us, it's not someone that when you've got 22-year-old Tierney, Leno, who's in his mid-20s. You've got Bellerin, who's in his mid-20s. Holding as well. Saliba to come. Potentially bringing another centre-half from anything from early to mid-teens. You've obviously got Torreira and Guendouzi. Whether they're going to be starters or not, my point is that the spine of this side from the teenagers to mid-teens should be addressed, and we should really have got there by now. And my point about bringing Leno is that you've got Leno. Surely bringing in Leno, it was a piece of a jigsaw. In the same way, Liverpool, they knew they had Matip. And he's improved. They got Robertson, Trent came through. They're missing a piece in Van Dijk and Alisson, and that's made the difference. But that's been in tandem with a greater emphasis on improving defensively. By their own high standards of last season, Liverpool obviously have been a bit shaky defensively, just in terms of goals conceded and how they've been playing. But you get the point. That's what we should be saying. We need the manager, whoever comes in, because it's not officially Arteta right now, to immediately insert a way of playing so that we can sit here and say, oh, when new players come or when there is a bit more time to gel, we can do certain things. The one thing I hope Arteta does is he's clear in his convictions, because Emre, 1 minute he's 5 at the back, 1 minute he's 3 at the back, and a lot of that is obviously to do with not trusting the players. But I'm sure if Emre looks back at his time, he would have had would have wanted to have more conviction in his more conviction in his ideas, or more confidence in his ideas, in which he failed to do either. That's one mistake Arteta can't afford to make. Arteta can't afford to hold hands. He needs to drop out players very quickly. I think Arteta will be better at, keeping players on side. Like, look at Mesut Ozil and the Emre situation, or Xhaka and Emre. Whether you believe in these players or not, player power is a big thing. So I think Arteta deserves our support, at least until he loses it. Same way with Emre, if he does come in. I do feel a lot of fans, he's not going to have patience, because they didn't want Arteta. They're scared for his lack of experience and whatnot. And again, putting out cones doesn't mean you're a good manager. I get that. I hear with that. No side's right and no side's wrong. But I just feel he get my support, regardless. There are certain managers that have been linked with the job privately. I've been praying the fact that they don't get it. But if they got it, they'd have my full backing, people. Because we need to stop things like this. Just look at Kevin De Bruyne, people. We saw videos of Arsenal's up front in videos. The attackers, they try to press up, but when we pass their front three, they don't really help the Arsenal defence. So they always stay with front four up, except Martinelli, who comes back a little bit more. So we always try to get spaces somewhere over the field. And what did I tell you, people? In different words, if you don't press as a team in terms of the first line of defence, which is our strikers, in terms of all over the field, Lacazette, Aubameyang, they've been pulling their weight. And I'm not just saying them, because it's been, whether it's them two, whether it's the young players, whether it's Pepe, that's our first line of defence. It's too easy to beat that line because we don't press in a coordinated fashion. Our midfield is at 6s and 7s. There's many obvious problems with Arsenal. Our lack of ability to defend, aerial set pieces and things like that. We're an open book. But this just tells you City knew that they didn't have to be at their best yesterday. They know they beat our team, the front line, like you saw, for their goals, where we gave the ball back to them. The play broke down with our attackers, or in Leno's long kick, where we failed to make a meal of things. And then he was the only Arsenal, after he touched it, he was the last Arsenal player to touch it, taken out of his net. Teams know you beat our first line of defence, which is our attackers. Our midfield isn't there, and our defence is just calamity. There's no coordination. You're meant to attack and defend as one unit, people, and we don't do either. Attackers need to defend. Defenders need to attack in short as well, people. By the same logic, obviously, common sense needs to be applied to that statement. We're meant to be one fine drilled unit defensively and offensively, but we also need to be 3 sub-teams, and the defence don't have pride in their performance. The attackers are too cheap in how they allow teams to be breached, and there's not really any fluid play. Our midfield is just a shambles, to put it nicely, people. There's a lot to address. How can anything be addressed very quickly? Who knows, people? We'll have to see. Away from that, we've obviously had the Europa League draw, people, and we've drawn Olympiacos, a former given in Champions League fixtures. Now, my immediate thoughts was it's going to be a tough game. The stature of the teams, when you hear Arsenal and Olympiacos, of course you'd expect Arsenal to win. But expectation and Arsenal is a dangerous sentence, particularly the away leg in Greece. We have a problem with away games, full stop, much less a nation that's football crazy like Greece, much less being up for it because it's a top European game against a top 6 English Premier League side. I'm sure Mavropanos and Socrates want to be involved in their country in some capacity. And Olympiacos are not to be taken lightly by any stretch of the imagination. Obviously, you probably would have backed Spurs and Bayern Munich to go through that group anyways. But I'm sure Spurs fans, Spurs players and everyone connected with that club like Bayern Munich, they'd have an appreciation for Olympiacos. You look at the 4-2 victory, Spurs had to come from 2-0 down. Olympiacos made some poor defensive mistakes, but I genuinely feel this Champions League, they gave a good account of themselves. I'm sure they even took, didn't they get a point? Didn't they get a point against Spurs as well? Either way, over both, I can't remember the fixture results, but either way, they put a good, credible performance in both legs against Spurs. They obviously played well in one of the games against Bayern Munich. I'm sure they took the lead before Munich obviously showed their quality. So I think they've got good players. I can't say his name, but is it Pendance or something like that? The right winger who's been good for them in such competition. He's been linked with Arsenal and Spurs, and I believe I've seen his name in the mirror with United. Whether this is legit interest, or not, we'll have to see. We firmly know any hopes of Champions League are firmly on the if we can win the Europa League. That's it, people. Can we do it with a young, inexperienced manager? No fault of his own in Arteta, who's going to have to learn quickly. Can we do it with this squad of inexperienced players, and the ones that are experienced are just simply bottlers and unable to hold results, and they choke when it's the final moments? We'll have to see. I want to win Europa League, but clearly it's wishing on a star, people. And there's still top teams in it. Now, obviously, we got to miss out on a couple of teams, people. I think I made some notes in regards to the Europa League. Can I even find them, though? I'm sure I did, people. Apologies. Should really have it all out. I think Inter Milan got Deluded, a team that I was trying to avoid. I think Bayern Leverkusen got a tough team as well, people. Apologies. Better I just read it. So obviously Olympiacos got Arsenal, like I've said. Inter Milan, I've got Ludogorets. United, we've got Club Brugge. Getafe will be playing against Ajax. And I believe it's Bayern Leverkusen versus Porto. So we avoided some of the teams we potentially don't want to face now anyways. Obviously, it's the last 32. It's going to be a long competition. We've got to take every game extremely important. The time has now come where we've got to play our strongest team in all competitions. Premier League is a write-off, but just in terms of installing credibility, I would like to start winning games again, start going on a winning run again. Forget about top four, just install confidence back in the young players. I've given up on the experienced players and whatnot. Like, I'm not going to lie, all David Luiz, Socrates, I'm a big fan of Xhaka, but Xhaka, Mesut Ozil, like, I've given up on these sort of players now, man. Like, even to a degree, Lacazette and Aubameyang, like, don't get twisted, I love both of them, but I'm seeing too much moaning around the whole squad now, and Aubameyang looks defeated. I'm not critiquing the two attackers, because I would have long given up as well, but I've only really got time for these young players now, man, because these lot are frustrating me. I'd give everything to be a professional footballer and to live a day in these lot shoes. And time and time again, these lot are leaving the field, not playing, entering the field and leaving it, not performing like it's your last game of football, like God or some external force is going to make you physically, God forbid, physically unable to play or take this opportunity away from you. And that's what football's about. Pardon my language, people, but fuck the opposition, fuck all of them things. You need to have belief. Like, look at the City game. We would have got smoked against City, but it's all about credibility and performance. It's about going out there and performing like your life's on the line, like your family is. Again, like, you got to behave like someone's holding your family hostage and they're going to kill them if you don't put in a credible performance. Playing football like it's your last game, like you're never going to be able to be in this position again. Just having a go, really and truly, because when you strip down the oppositions you face, these are the basic feelings you need in football. You need the clarity of mind, you need self-belief, because it's just a game of football. You don't know me, I love football, I love it too much, I'm always making videos, but by the same logic, it's not that deep. It's just 22 players kicking a ball around trying to score past one another, people, and we need to get back to that. We need to get back to that. And I've had it, man. To be fair, some of these young players don't learn their lessons, but I don't think you can teach an old dog new tricks. Hopefully some of these players will prove me wrong, but I haven't got time for these experienced players. I've only got time for the young players now, because at least they've got something to play for. And obviously I take back my statement about Aubameyang and Lacazette. I love them, but all the experienced players or players I expect to stand up to be counted, I'm done now, man, because they've got, like, nobody can tell them. Some of them have played under, well, three manager. If Arteta comes, fourth manager now, and you're still seeing the same old stuff, really and truly. The board have to pull it out as well. So that's all I've got to say, people. Really and truly, we need to fix up in terms of what we're doing. I just want to get back to enjoying watching my club play. We're coming 5th, 6th. Champions League is a myth, but we need to just get back into putting pride in performances, people. On that note, I'm going to get out of here. DG.